Welcome to Botanical Trails Through the Juniper Forest. I'm your host, Brian Heater. Each week, I'll have a different guest join me to explore a pair of interesting gins. We'll chat a little bit about the gin and the distilleries, throw in a bit of trivia, hopefully laugh a bit, and then we'll go off the beaten path. Although I say that this is a podcast about gin, really this is just an excuse for me to spend time with my friends. But that'll just be our secret. Okay, let's start exploring. My guest for episode 13 is Jacqueline Goodfellow, or as I like to call her, Jax, or Jax-a-million.
Yes! Lucky number 13! Yes. I'm so excited!
Awesome. I was going to say, I hope you're not superstitious.
No, I am not at all, and this is so fun.
Well,
to kick off my episode, yes. I have a gift for you.
A gift for me?
A gift for you. Well,
thanks.
So, as you're opening, I'll give you the story.
Okay.
I bought the gift in preparation for your sabbatical party because it had a theme, and because of who I am as a person, I lost it. I put it somewhere safe in my house and didn't know where the hell it was. So if you look at the top,
it's a candle, and it says gin and tonic.
It is a gin and tonic.
So if I melt this down, it becomes a gin and tonic. Is this what you're telling me?
I don't think that is recommended, although there's not a warning on it.
Well, thanks, Jack.
So I just thought that was so fun.
It smells like a London Dry.
How many botanicals do you think are in the candle?
I don't know. My palate's terrible like that. I'll guess 5.
I don't even know. Well,
that is
question.
super nice.
My friend's daughter is, and her friend have this great, little side business out in the Pacific Northwest. They make these two casual candles. Shout out to them. And so they make kind of all different kind of candles, and most of their jars you can reuse in pot plants. Of course, I wouldn't do that because they would die. But around the holidays, they introduced this gin and tonic special scent.
Wow.
I'm I gotta get that for Brian.
That's awesome.
It'll be a perfect sabbatical gift.
Much.
So there, 2 years later.
So do they make these at home, or they have a little office or building where they?
No, they just do a little.
And where out in the Northwest?
They are in. That's such a great question.
Washington, Oregon. Salem.
Eugene-ish.
Sure.
Perhaps.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, that's awesome. Sorry if I'm wrong, but yeah.
No, that's great. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Looks great in your podcast room. You look very.
Thanks. Well, I am excited to have you today as my guest. So we are doing something a little different in this episode. We are going to try 2 gins from the same distillery, but they're 2 separate styles of gin, actually, which is why we're going to do it. So the first drink we have will be Plymouth Gin, and I'll talk about that and why it's considered kind of its own style. And then we're actually going to do their Sloe Gin in the second segment, and I'll talk about what is a Sloe Gin.
Well,
and then
we'll talk about a Sloe Gin fizz, and I wish I would have worn my flapper outfit.
It is totally going to be a Sloe Gin.
Yes! I just, spoiler alert, sorry I ruined it.
No, that's awesome.
It's the only thing I think of with Sloe Gin. And I will say, so this looks like a very tasty drink. Brian, I do not think I have literally ever had a gin and tonic in my life.
Well, this might be the best episode ever then. So let's give this a try. I promise
not to spit it out.
Yeah, don't do that.
Cheers. Cheers. Well, this is delicious.
Isn't it? It is.
There's not a Christmas tree in sight.
No, it is a... I'll talk about the gin real quick. But yes, I think there's a reason why...
I don't think I like gin and tonic because of the Christmas.
No, it's a really sort of smooth, subtle gin. I literally just tried this the other night. I went and picked up both the other day. So... let me talk about the gin and the distillery. So Plymouth Gin is kind of considered its own style, or at least it was. So it used to be London Dry, Plymouth Gin, Sloe Gins, Old Tom. Those were kind of originally the 4 big styles. Okay. Yeah. So also this gin, this recipe has been around since 1793. So this is the oldest distillery I think we've covered thus far in the podcast. So, and at one point, the Plymouth Gin was considered a geographically protected product within the European Union. But in 2014, the current owners decided not to renew the designation, since in doing so, due to the laws there, they were going to have to reveal what the recipe was for the gin. So they decided they wouldn't do that,
and they thus can keep their recipe.
Exactly. But Plymouth Gin used to only be able to get it at the Plymouth distillery, and that's sort of why it was considered like its own style. So it's very similar to a London Dry. It technically meets all the same requirements, but the flavor is a little softer and lighter. It has 7 botanicals in total, but the botanicals are earthier, which impacts the flavor as well.
No juniper berry in there.
No, there is juniper in it.
Really?
But I think the other stuff, kind of mellow it out. It's a gin that's very popular with bartenders because it works in like all sorts of different cocktail applications, which makes sense after I try it
because it's so smooth.
Yeah, it's
and
not
doesn't
super juniper
other
forward.
Stuff.
Yep. And although they have been making this for over 200 years, in 2022, in various competitions, it won 4 awards, still 2 silvers and 2 golds. So
it's holding up.
It is, yes.
Okay.
The Plymouth Gin Distillery, the buildings were formerly a monastery inhabited by the Black Friars. Sounds like something out of Game of Thrones, hanging out at the wall up north.
I only watched the first episode.
Did you get blessed by the Black Friars? Sure.
I couldn't get into it. But those friars, they need their alcohol.
Then it was a prison for a bit.
They also need alcohol, but...
The night before they leave on the Mayflower, the Pilgrim Fathers stay at this building in 1620 before setting off, and the ship on the label now, that's the Mayflower.
Oh,
yes.
There you go.
Which
Plymouth Gin. I don't know Plymouth Rock. I'm terrible
Plymouth
on my
Rock.
my U.S. history. I'm like, wait, Plymouth Rock, right? Plymouth Rock is where the Mayflower landed.
Yeah. See, it's sort of that ties it in because I was kind of like,
you're like, what are you talking about?
Well, I was like, why would they put a ship on there of people leaving their country? Like, I don't know, but that was just me. I'm like, that's different.
Plymouth Rock, yeah.
In 1793, they started distilling, but records go back to actually 1697 of there being a malt house on the premise. So they may have done some other type of like brewing or distilling or something.
Yeah.
Plymouth, the city, is also home to a naval dockyard. And for nearly 200 years, every Royal Navy boat that left took a supply of Navy strength gin.
Is Navy strength like 200 proof instead of 100? It is more proof.
I will do.
The sailors really need to kick it back.
I read a little blurb on this, and I'll do like I'll do a Navy strength gin in a future episode. But
because that's a thing more than just for Plymouth.
Yes, it is a style. But the reason, allegedly, what I read was since they stored it by the gunpowder or something, they had to increase the alcohol content so that if it spilled, the gunpowder would still go off. So that's how it became Navy strength, because it had to meet a certain level that it was still basically...
extremely explosive.
Yeah, and that's why it's like stronger. Now, when I do that one, I will make sure to verify that's what it...
Need a little fact check on that.
That's what it was.
But incredible.
But that's how, allegedly, the Navy strength came through. So, so Plymouth is like I said, it was considered by some folks its own style of gin. I had never tried it until this week, but I am really pleasantly surprised and happy with it.
Will be very honest, and I was prepared to just struggle through it and say, yeah, Brian, this is great, but it's incredible. It's fantastic. Maybe if I would have started with a gin like this, I wouldn't have gone my adult life thinking, I don't like gin and tonics. I don't want that.
Maybe, same with me, like, for beer. Like, I didn't really, enjoy beer until my 40s.
Right.
And maybe I just didn't have the right beers early on, or...
Maybe my late 40s is my gin era.
It has been for me.
Taylor's got her eras. I can find an era.
Yeah, exactly. So, I just wasn't sure, what it was going to be like at all, because I had never had it, but...
So from a comparison to the other styles that you usually drink, kind of same thing. It's just, more mellow than some of those London Dries.
Yeah, I really like some London Dries, but what I have noticed, I think, of the gins that I really enjoy, there's a smoothness to them, and I feel this gin has a smoothness, and I don't think I can properly describe it, but
you don't get that alcohol-y bite of the like, oh my gosh, my throat is on fire with this. Like,
and it also might, the gin and tonics I made are Mediterranean fever tree tonic.
Oh, okay.
The Plymouth Gin, and then we used lemon to go with it.
The lemon wedge in there is extremely refreshing.
And that was the recipe that they put on the Plymouth Distillery, put on their website for like to make a gin and tonic.
The best way to enjoy our gin
use a nice tonic and use a lemon.
Because I think, again, in my head, I think gin and tonic, I always think lime, and I always think the really heavy juniper taste, smell, all of those. So this is like a total if you like, turn from that, but it's very good.
If you like this, I think you would like, they're called like American Dry or New Western Dry gins, where they have... they just add more or different botanicals to kind of take the edge off the juniper. Okay. And they're like a little bit smoother, sort of like this. So I'm super happy that you like it.
Fantastic. Now, we're kicking off summer. This is a great like summer cocktail. Now we have revolutionized my summer. You're
my first guest that I've had who has had or has been a part of another podcast.
Oh, yes. I'm a professional. I'm surprised you didn't introduce me in that way.
Well, I didn't want to make it look like I was showing off. Yeah, I didn't want to make it look like I was showing off. But if you remember, like a week or two into my sabbatical, we went and had lunch, and I was kind of picking your brain.
I said, I'm only the comic relief, Brian. I don't know anything about actually... producing a podcast. I know, because I was like, and establishing one. I was like,
are you still doing that? Can I buy your equipment? Yeah. So could you give us just a real quick high-level synopsis of that podcast? And are you guys still doing it? Is it going to come back?
Not still doing it, but it could come back. I guess we don't need to put the nail in the coffin. So... my friend Tracy, she and I used to work together. She's the brainchild behind, and actually, all tying back together, Tracy's daughter Ashley is who made the candle.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
Well, that's crazy.
Isn't that crazy?
That is
my gosh.
Nice.
Yes. So Tracy and I used to work together, and Tracy came up with the idea. She was a very early adopter of podcasts in like 2018. 2019 is when we started, the summer of 2019. And she came up with an idea because it was great. She felt like she needed a hobby. She needed something to do, because when people are like, hey, like, what do you like to do or whatever, she's like, work and walk my dog and cook with my husband. I don't know. So her brainchild for the podcast, which was really great, and you can still find it where podcasts are found, is called Is This My Thing?
That's what it was.
Is this my thing? So we went out and tried different things. Like we went paddleboarding, we went axe throwing, we went to a break room therapy where you like go Office Space style and like smash stuff up.
Yep.
We went, oh my gosh, what else did we do?
Yeah, what else did you guys do?
We went snowshoeing.
Oh, that was the other one I thought of. Yeah.
I feel like there were more like outdoor we went line dancing, country line dancing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so you guys would go out and do this.
We would go out and do the thing.
And there was 3 of you, right?
Yes, and then her friend Sarah, that she did her graduate level work with down at Western, she kind of conned her into it too. Her kids were all in high school, and it was the same thing, like, what do you do? I don't know, drive my kids to soccer practice. What else do I do? Although she had a bustling social life, more than the two of us. And Levi was, 4 at the time or something, so it also became a little bit of like, don't ask me what my hobbies are, like giving my kid goldfish and talking about
Spider-Man and
Roblox and a bunch of bullshit.
Foreign languages on the internet.
Oh, sorry, R-rated with a cuss.
Great. No, I'm just kidding.
Just ruined it for you. So it was a super fun podcast. We'd go do an activity, and then we'd come back and we'd talk about it, and we would say, is this something we would do again? Who is it good for? Oh, we did a murder mystery like game where they like mail you the game and the clues, and you like figure out, not a murder mystery, but like a mystery, and you like detective solve something.
Oh, but you don't go to a place and do it? You like do it?
I've heard of that, but we hadn't done it. This was a like game board where you get the pieces, and it's like, okay, here's your clues, here's your people, and it's like a detective file. You like open up the file and like, here's the people and here's their background and here's the person who was found dead or whatever.
Yeah, so, I think I'd listened to 3 or 4 of them, but my favorite one was the axe throwing one.
Oh my gosh, that was the most fun thing to do, actually. And It was a little terrifying, though, because if you've ever gone, have you ever done it?
No, no.
There's a place downtown now. The one we went to is actually closed, but there's another one literally across the street.
Did you go to the one that was on Plainfield?
We did, next to Fred's.
Fred's.
Yes.
And it burned down? Because Fred's burns down every 3 years, right?
No. This one is now a discount hair product something.
Oh.
It's next to a pawn shop. Very classy. But yes, it is closed now. But literally across the street in the plaza where the old MC was, there is another one.
That's the one I thought you went to. Because that's the one I see when I go up that way.
Yes, so. We went to the one that was across the street. But I think there's one downtown called Lumberjacks or
Well, there's one on Seward.
Something. Yes.
We're over here on the northwest side.
We're looking to do it as a work event, which I think is hilarious because not all my coworkers
now, if I remember
might
correctly,
throw axes at each other.
Were you were not allowed to drink? Is that correct when you were doing this?
We were not at this location, but I definitely have seen, and I don't know what it's like here, I definitely have seen that there are bar themes. There's definitely drinking involved at some of them.
Oh. But
this location you could not drink. But I feel like I've seen, maybe like on a dating reality show or something, that like they have, there are other places that it is a bar, and you also can throw axes, which I just think, I don't understand how you get liability insurance for something like that.
It has to be so high. That just seems like a bad idea, jeans, blinged out.
And the only safety, like, you have to wear closed-toed shoes. So that's
in case you drop the axe.
Yes, that is the safety.
Because my pumas are gonna stop that axe from stopping my toes off. The axe at least can
just go right in the soft leather. Maybe that's why the one we went to is out of business, and the other ones are better. But
yeah, because they had that whole flip-flop party, and they're like, "You kids go ahead."
Oops. Yes, at the time that was the only requirement.
Wow.
It was extremely fun, but harder than you'd think. Like, you had to get the angle right to get it to, like, hit the board. Like, it bounces off the board at you much more often than you'd think.
So when you would throw it, are you throwing it so that, like, the sharp end is aimed at the board, or are you throwing it so the sharp end is, like, sort of like facing you, and then as it
does not face you. Like, you use both hands to put it directly behind your head.
Both hands? How big is this axe?
Oh, it's like Thor. Have you seen me? Of course. I'm like lifting at the hammer.
This sounds like something out of Braveheart.
That's what we were also missing. Face paint.
Did you paint your face?
Damn it. I would have if I would have thought of it.
Wait, it's a two-handed throw over your head?
I mean, it was 2 years ago, but I think yes. It was more, I would call it hatchet-y, but hatchet throwing doesn't sound as good as axe throwing.
Yeah, but a hatchet is what I imagined.
I don't think it was a one-handed deal.
Wow.
I think they taught us
then.
To do it
and that seems
two-handed.
Even more dangerous.
It definitely upped the ante a little bit.
I mean, because if you take someone who's, let's say, non-athletic,
right,
and they're not good at throwing just with their dominant hand, and now you're throwing the other hand in there, and it's a sharp object, and you're like, by the way, hold this over your head, and then whip it.
And then whip it. Yeah.
So, of the different events you did in that podcast, what was your favorite?
I liked axe throwing because it was so different, but I will say, from a continued standpoint, paddleboarding, I tried, like, I don't know, probably even before Levi was born, so like 8 or 10 years ago, and couldn't ever stand up, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. Who does this? Like, this is impossible. You have to be an Olympic athlete. And obviously, it just was not my day. But paddleboarding is super fun, so we rented them at Millennium Park. You rent them for like $10 or something. And my parents have a cottage up north, and we've bought a couple paddle boards, and we're out there all the time. It's super fun.
So did, like, doing that through the podcast get you into it then, sort of? Or had you been doing it already?
I had done it once or twice before we went, but we weren't, like, as super into it. But now it's something I would say that, like, we definitely paddleboard now every summer.
Oh, nice.
And that's something that we tried.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, and Millennium Park is good for it, too. When Jeff and I went to Florida a couple years ago, you could rent a paddleboard, like, on the ocean. I'm like, that's not the same as being on a little tiny lake. Like, I don't think I could paddleboard with waves.
Or sharks.
Oh, well, I mean,
that would be my fear, always. My fear immediately is
a shark, no matter what?
No, it's always like, what could kill me here? Like,
the paddleboard.
Well, I went to Australia with my mom and sister and brother-in-law. And they were going for a 2-week trip, but then because they were going, like, we started off in Sydney, so I went for that week, but then they were heading up to
Ayers Rock in the outback.
not that, but like up to like go out and see the Great Coral Reef or like something
Reef,
like that.
yes.
But yeah, Barrier Reef. But
yes,
like first of all, Australia is like one of the most deadliest places for anybody that you should go to. And there's a ton of crap up there that would kill you. And they're just like, well, do you want to go? And I'm like, no. I'm good in the city.
Do you know about Steve Irwin?
Yeah, I'm like good in the city, and then I'm out. And like the week, either before or after, they also have these like saltwater crocodiles, and one of those prehistoric beasts killed someone literally down the road from where they were staying.
Last week was murder hornets. Today is saltwater crocodiles.
Yes, and I'm just like,
murder and mayhem that surrounds you. I went to Australia actually when I was 15.
Where?
And I didn't play on any. I didn't know anything about this. So we did snorkel in the Great Barrier Reef.
Oh my God!
We went to Sydney.
To be alive. No, I'm just.
We went to Sydney. I was just saying, but it's the beauty of youth. You're so dumb. And also, when I was 15, we didn't have Google, so you didn't know what any of that shit was. I wasn't going to read in the encyclopedia.
It's basically like, is that bright? It's poisonous and it'll kill you, or it'll eat you. And they also have.
I held a koala bear that was all like high. They're high on eucalyptus all day, so they're pretty docile.
Yes, and that's why they're dumb as can be.
Yes, that's why they're just hold on to a little teddy bear because their claws are so long, and so you hold them while they hold
the eucalyptus is actually toxic to them.
Yeah.
So they have to like expend more body energy, which is why they seem zoned out because they're
high as shit.
Well, they're like one of the dumbest animals. They're dumb as can be. They're just dumb.
So funny.
Australia also has bullet ants, which is like the most painful insect bite allegedly that you can receive. So that place is just, I don't know, and it was founded by...
What kind of research are you doing before you go to these places that you're like, Mom, I don't think we should go. Do you know they have bullet ants?
Well, one, I like ants, so I'm like, well, they got bullet ants, so let's stay away from any ant hills. And I'm like, are we in a city? Okay.
Yeah.
But it was Australia, and listen, no offense, but the country is founded by criminals. It was a penal colony.
It was.
So I would just watch my wallet the whole time. It's just... No, it was a great drag.
It's amazing.
I'll be banned, canceled in Australia.
That's it. You're one.
But they loved it. They came home alive. They loved it. I thought it was great. Like we went wine tasting out there. It was a really cool like place. We rented like an Airbnb, and it was fun to just walk around Sydney and everything. Yeah. And yeah, it was fun.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And you lived to tell the tale.
Yeah, somehow. Because I was like, oh, you're heading out near Dangerville? I'm heading home.
I love it.
All right, shall we do trivia?
Trivia time. All right,
we had decided I will go first.
Yes. Oh, this is a fantastic one.
Well, let's see.
What was the common name for gin made at home or illegally?
Is it a multiple choice, or I have to guess?
It is just a guess.
Bathtub gin.
100%.
All right.
I hope episode 14 is how to make bathtub gin.
Yeah, I don't know. We shall see. So
good one. Not even a multiple choice, and you got it.
Well, yeah, and I've been struggling lately, so
there you go.
So back on track.
Like it.
Great. Well, let's take a little break, and I will go whip up our Sloe Gin Fizz.
Incredible.
All right, we are back for segment 2, and we are going to be trying a Sloe Gin Fizz.
I'm so excited about this Sloe Gin Fizz.
I have never had this cider. Well, maybe I have at some point.
Cheers. It's beautiful.
Give it a try.
It does look a little more orangey. I thought it would be pink. It's definitely... I'm tasting citrus.
Yep.
Why is it citrusy?
Probably
I expected it to be berry-y.
Well, there's 3 ounces of lemon juice in it.
I just watched you literally juice a bag of lemon, and I said, why does it taste like citrus?
And then, but only 2 ounces of the Sloe Gin. So that could be why.
Interesting.
Yes. So the recipe that I found on the Spruce Eats, and I'll put this on the Instagram for it, but it's 2 ounces of Sloe Gin, 3/4 of an ounce of freshly squeezed. Oh, I completely jacked that up.
That's why it tastes like lemon. Too much.
That's all right. You know what? Damn it.
Do we have to rewind? Do we have to cut this?
Yes. No, we'll just stop, pause, hang on. Technical difficulties. We'll be back. Okay, we're back. And as I was saying, the recipe that I got from the Spruce Eats is 2 ounces of Sloe Gin, 3/4 of an ounce of freshly squeezed lemon juice, a 1/2 ounce of simple syrup, and then 1 to 3 ounces of soda water to taste. So we just topped it off with the soda water. I've never had this, so let's give this a try. Cheers. Oh, that's pretty good.
That's very good.
This would not be good if there was a lot of lemon juice in it.
You know what this would not taste good with? 3 ounces of lemon.
Yeah.
You can really taste, like, berry. I mean, this is what I sort of expected it to taste like, with a fruity flavor.
You think more so than the cheese.
The other one was a lemon
that was
tonic.
Ridiculous. Okay. So why don't we talk about Sloe Gin?
Yes.
So real quick. So I believe I also got. So I tried to find just a quick, easy, short definition.
Okay.
And I think I also got this at the Spruce Eats, but I'm not positive. But I'll quote. Here's the easiest way to describe what Sloe Gin is, says Wilmar Nolasco, who is a head bartender of Leroy's in Brooklyn. It is a traditionally produced gin with the usual botanicals. So think like juniper, coriander, citrus. Then the highly astringent sloe berry is macerated or steeped in the gin and sweetened. And it turns into a beautifully soft, slightly sweet botanical nutty liqueur that's a little lower in alcohol content than a traditional gin.
It does have a liqueur taste. Like, not a sickeningly sweet by any means, but I mean, I guess if you, like, had a shot of it, it might be a little cough syrupy.
Correct.
But you can definitely taste the sweetness.
Yes. So the reason we are using the Plymouth Sloe Gin is when I was doing my research on sloe gins, in some areas, sloe gin is not considered a gin. It is considered a liqueur because sometimes gin is actually not the base alcohol that's used.
Ooh, but it still can be a sloe gin.
They call it a sloe gin.
Interesting.
Yep. So not all sloe gins actually use gin as the base. And the blackthorn bush that produces the sloe berries is not naturally found in the U.S. It's found in Europe.
Okay.
So U.S. companies sometimes will use like a chemical additive instead of
the actual macerated berry.
Yeah. So often sloe gins it's considered a liqueur, not a gin. So I was like, well, I want to do a sloe gin that is actually a gin. And so when I was researching
fits the bill.
Plymouth, I found out that their sloe gin comes right from it. So does Heyman's that we did in episode 6. Their sloe gin, they use their gin as the base. So there are some that actually do use it.
They do both.
Exactly. So this Plymouth Sloe Gin, they originally started making the sloe gin in 1883, and they used their Plymouth gin as the base. So they ceased making it in the 1930s due to basically prohibition. Which wasn't impacting them quite as much, I don't think, over there. But also, it was sandwiched between the 2 world wars and the Depression, and so
the berries, don't drink the berries.
Probably, yes. So in the early 2000s, they actually started making it again, and in 2008, it became available in the U.S. They started exporting it back over here, and just last year, it won 3 silver medals in different various competitions. So they're still getting it right, even though
award-winning.
This gin's been around for a bit. So this is
fantastic.
A sloe gin. So.
I wouldn't, again, equate it to, I think, every time I think gin, I just think the juniper, but this is very tasty.
Yeah, and
fruity.
And,
I think Scott would like it.
Oh,
Scott likes a fruity drink.
You throw an umbrella like that, it's a vacation in the glass for that kid.
This is a new summer drink for you, Scott.
He's super happy. And basically, if I remember correctly, the only difference between the Sloe Gin and their Plymouth Gin is they just add the sloe berries. Otherwise, everything's the same.
Everything's the same.
Yeah.
So interesting. I should have done my Googling. Why do I always think of the 20s when I think of Sloe Gin? Like, is a Sloe Gin fizz?
I think a Sloe Gin fizz. I would not be surprised if it popped up in like the writings then of like F. Scott Fitzgerald and stuff like that.
It's a Gatsby thing.
Yeah, it was just seen as like a thing.
Yeah.
I think gin was very popular back then.
The gin joints, right?
Exactly.
All the gin joints, yes. That's just what I think of with a Sloe Gin fizz, like a very 20s flapper style. But
no,
I think we're bringing this back.
I just think of a flapper
2020s also. Like, so good.
Yeah. Makes sense. Just bring it back 100 years later.
I like it.
We can make 2023.
2023. The Sloe Gin summer. I like it. Alyssa, I think you should try this one too. It is better than an Aperol Spritz.
Yeah, she's still not happy, but I'm going to try to get her to go out. She's getting
canceled for that.
I'm going to try to get her to go out in the next week or two for that.
I mean, sitting on the Amore patio with a Aperol Spritz is just pretty summery. It's great.
I'm going to try to get her to go downtown to House of Wine. And you sort of sit outside, and it sort of feels like Europe.
Yeah.
You know, and
it's just the atmosphere.
Yeah.
I like it.
And I think one of her offices is downtown, so maybe we can figure out a day when she's just down there. And
happy hour time.
Yeah.
I love it. This is fantastic. And very, like, it's interesting that they are the same with just the addition of the berry, because they feel like two kind of separate drinks completely, right? Something that's like very simple, very smooth, and this is like proper cocktail with the ingredients.
Yeah, and they have a number of at the Plymouth Distillery at their website. They have a number of like different cocktail recipes for different things that this can be used in. So they had something similar to this, but I went with this one. That I had just stumbled across.
I think it was a great choice.
Yeah, so it has been, a nice, fun little surprise. And so that covers those two styles of gin, which I'm very happy about, because that was one thing I wanted to do and started the podcast. So able to knock that off.
I love it. Checked off the list. Lucky number 13.
Set and good with that one. So, all right. Are you ready for a little gin trivia? I
am ready for gin trivia.
All right.
I hope it's true or false.
Oh my God.
Is it?
No.
Oh, dang.
Well, if Sloe Gin is flavored, and I'm dead serious, if Sloe Gin is flavored with sloe berries, with what is dry gin flavored?
If Sloe Gin
is flavored with sloe berries,
dry gin
what is dry gin flavored?
Dry berries?
No, it's that's a terrible question. What makes gin?
Juniper.
That's the answer.
There you go.
Yes. It's a very weird way to answer, because if it's a true gin, like the Plymouth, there's juniper in this because it makes it a gin. I guess if they're calling Sloe Gin a liquor, that's,
and
I guess,
dry gin
and they're
is
not using
a style, or it's gin.
But any gin, whether it would be
with
Old Tom or whatever, that's not a great question.
You pulled those cards early,
but it was so funny that it was Sloe Gin.
That was crazy.
That was just complete fluke. So
the cards are with you.
All right. Well, we had chatted before going in the episode that I will start off the beaten path.
Amazing.
This round. So cast your mind back, Jax, about not quite 20 years, but we first met at Stockbridge Pub, the long and gone Stockbridge Pub, but just a fun little joint. And like within the first couple of years of meeting you, you had gone to the Kentucky Derby, if I remember.
Yes, we did.
Yes. And so originally my choice was going to be sort of tied into that, because I know you and I can remember this just because I have a dumb memory for stuff like this, but we had talked about Hunter S. Thompson wrote this story called The Kentucky Derby's Decadent and Depraved, and that was sort of going to be my choice for today.
Oh, yeah.
But then I was thinking a little bit more, and I think I might do that one, but instead I went sort of like way off the beaten path. So, so before I met you, so I think like I really like to read The New Yorker.
Yes.
Like me and my best friend Jim, who is in episode 8, he and I get The New Yorker and stuff. Well, prior to this, we used to get Harper's.
Oh, wow.
Back in the day.
Classic.
And there was an article that came out in Harper's that's also sort of tied to like horse racing and Kentucky Derby, and it just came to mind when I was thinking about the Kentucky Derby's Decadent and Depraved. And so I'm actually going with this article out of Harper's.
Oh, wow.
Yes, it is called Horsemen Pass By, Glory, Grief, and the Race for the Triple Crown. It is an article written by John Jeremiah Sullivan. It was in the Harper's October 2002. So
okay.
2002.
October 2002.
And if you like go to their website, I think you can get look at an article and you can get it in case you want to read this. But it was this guy writes this article and it touches on a couple different things, and one is like his dad who like covered horse racing, and then talks about Secretariat, who was going for the Triple Crown back in the day, and then I believe it was one of the sires of Secretariat, which was War Emblem. Which and War Emblem was racing around the time, I think, when this came out. So it kind of talks about these things. But what always stuck out in my mind in this article was the way this guy would describe Secretariat when he talks about Secretariat going for the Triple Crown and like what this horse did. And I mean, it's one of the few magazine articles that I can even think of in my life where I've gone back and like I'll reread it every.
Like a novel or like a short story.
Yeah, like every 8 years or 10 years. Like I'm like, that's such a good, let me go back. And so I did. I just, the other day I went back and I reread it and I'm like, that is just such a good article. And it's not only so well written, but just the way it unfolds, and it's just great. And if you enjoy like, it's a little bit longer article, so it'd probably be maybe the size of like a short story, let's say. But it's just super well written. It's amazing what this guy writes about Secretary. It's just so interesting and such a good little story that is what I decided to go for. But I'm sort of glad I did this because now this opens up to like there's some other like really good articles I've read out of like the New Yorker that I can open up and think about. And yeah, they're almost like little short stories. But anyhow, so again, it is called Horsemen Pass By, and is Harper's October 2020 or 2002. Yeah.
Which I'm just like, yeah, that was a couple years ago when we met, and it's 21 years ago.
No, we hadn't even met yet when that came out. Yes. We met in
2004. 4? Okay, because we I think went to the Kentucky Derby in either 4 and 5 or 5 and 6. We went I'm almost positive we went 2 years in a row, and 1 year it just rained.
Yeah, rained forever.
The entire time, and we were in the infield, which is, they say it's like a party, but nothing is a party in the rain like that, honestly.
No, that'd be awful. And then you guys did a trip to Montreal or something one of those years.
We did.
Too.
We went to Montreal for my sister's bachelorette party.
Oh, that's what it was.
We drove up. We went to Stratford and saw a show, and then up to Montreal for kind of like we were there a long weekend. We were there for Canada Day, actually, July 1.
Oh, it's Canada Day?
Oh. Canada Day,
coming
July
up.
1. Yeah, coming up. And so, it was fantastic.
Nice.
We had a blast.
Yeah.
Yeah, good times.
Well, awesome. So, that is my Off the Beaten Path. So.
I love that. Now, I do remember in episode 8, you scolded Jim for having too many ideas for Off the Beaten Path. So I will preface my Off the Beaten Path.
Place tried to like jam 6 in. Yeah, Jim had a couple options, but he was Place tried to like jam 6 in. Yeah.
I have 2, but they are companion documents. So
sounds good. Let's do it.
One is a book, and one is a Netflix series, so I can like balance it out. So
based off the book.
Similar theme, but not technically based off. So the book is called True Biz by Sarah Novick.
Okay.
I hope I'm saying her name correctly. It is a book about a high school for deaf kids. And it's told from kind of there's 4 points of view, 3 students and 1, the headmaster of the school. The headmaster of the school grew up with deaf parents, and so has always been in the deaf community.
So is this a nonfiction or fiction?
It is a fiction, but it is based on some true schools. Like Gallaudet University in Washington, D.C. is mentioned.
Okay.
And Gallaudet University was the home of Deaf U, which was a Netflix series, reality show, basically. Reality show / documentary in... It was out of Netflix in 2020, but they filmed before the pandemic.
Oh, okay.
And it was about Gallaudet University, a deaf college in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
So they kind of have the similar themes of, and I, like Molly was saying with her recommendation, kind of talking through, like, I want to try to read things that are outside of my scope, right? So different points of view, different lifestyles that I don't know anything about. So both the book, True Biz, that talks about kind of the school, and it has the levels of like elite deaf families and these kids who have gone into school where their families have been deaf for 5 generations. So they're considered like the elite deaf. They've kind of grown up and had resources, or their entire family, right, is deaf. So they have a lot of, they're used to sign language.
So this might be a dumb question, but is it something hereditary then, where they have like generations of...
That's such a great question, and I'm only assuming yes.
Okay.
Because
I didn't know if they covered it in the
Yeah,
in the
they
show.
didn't in the book, technically. And then there's another storyline of a girl who's the only deaf person in her family, and that she tried to kind of pass within the hearing world for a long time with lip reading, and her parents didn't maybe necessarily want her to learn ASL, and they wanted to do cochlear implants and all of these things. And so there's a whole theme too about eradicating deafness, right? Like, if all children who are born deaf are given a cochlear implant, or that's the recommended path for them, you will eradicate an entire group of people who are deaf.
Wow.
Right? Like, why have I never thought of that?
Yeah, I haven't either, but...
And so that's a lot of the themes of the book, and the, how you're either fitting in, or what decisions maybe your parents made for you as a child, and how that affects you in your life and how you fit into things. And so it is a novel, and there are bits and pieces that are a little like, okay,
Did you just stumble upon this, or did someone read it and talk to you about it?
I stumbled upon it. I do think in like 2020 it might have been a Reese book club pick, but
Reese
Witherspoon has like a little book club, or one of those. Maybe it was a Jenna, one of the little like Jenna, what's her name, Jenna Bush.
Oh, okay. I don't know. Jenna. There's a lot of Jenna.
There's a lot of like people who have their own little book list.
Like
Jenna from Amore. Oh, yeah, I was like Jenna. But I like to just go to the library and look at the what people are recommending kind of a thing. And it was on there, and it has a really cool cover. And so I picked it up and read it. And my coworker listened to it on audio, and they did a book club about it. But I definitely recommend reading the actual book, because they're interspersed in every chapter. There are signs, and they talk through kind of how ASL mirrors some English words, but it's a language of its own. And so they go through signs and talk about a short sign for a series of words, or how signing works and things like that. And that obviously doesn't translate as well on audio.
Sure.
Because you want to be able to see it,
to
see the signs and go through it.
That's interesting. So did you read the book first and then watch the show?
I didn't. I watched the show in 2020 when... I mean, most people watch all of Netflix, right? You worked through the entire catalog. And I had heard about it from a girl I went to college with, has a daughter with I'm not going to get the name of the syndrome correct, but she has a syndrome where she is hearing now, but she will eventually lose her hearing.
Oh, okay.
And they live on the east side of the state, and her daughter's younger than Levi, so she's maybe preschool age. But then in 2020, she was just kind of starting to get into some resources in the community for deaf and hard of hearing people, and she had actually posted about it. Like, I hope that my daughter is able to, see experiences in the media and out there in the world for kids like her. And I will give you the caveat, because I rewatched. I knew I wanted this to be my off the beaten path after we had talked, so I rewatched the series.
Oh, okay.
And it is very like reality television. It is not highbrow at all. It is college kids, and you are following them around and their experience, and there are some football players and some mean girls, and it is not Pulitzer Prize winning journalism by any means.
But are all the students in the show deaf? Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And some of them lip read, and so have moved outside of the deaf community, and that's sort of some of the storylines in the show also with, she doesn't really hang out with deaf people. She thinks she's cool and does stuff. It's great. So if you're a reality television watcher,
Alyssa,
I was going to say,
I think when we go out for Aperol
it's a
Spritz,
little housewife adjacent. It's not the drama, but it's definitely not like a documentary in the way that but it's real life college kids.
Nice.
So companion, the book True Biz, and the show Deaf You.
Excellent. Nice selection. I'm not familiar with either of those, so
fantastic.
Nice work. So, awesome. Well, anything else before we wrap up the show today?
This was so fun. Thank you for introducing me to 2 new drinks that I will add to my summer beer list.
Nice.
Drink list, not beer list.
Well,
Get
awesome.
away from that.
Well, thank you so much. And again, if you have gins that we would like to try or any questions or comments, you can reach out to us through our Instagram account at The Botanical Trails. Otherwise, thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks for joining us. Feel free to subscribe to us on whichever platform you listen to your podcasts. Also, I want to take a quick minute to thank Darin VanderMolen for all of his help behind the scenes. Without him, this podcast probably wouldn't even exist, and his help is greatly appreciated. Hope you have a great week, and we will look forward to seeing you the next time we go down the botanical trails. This has been a Shits and Giggles production.